I was born and raised in Montana, and I was in the World War II in the Navy, and when I got out of the Navy, I enrolled in Montana State College, but I wasn't happy. I didn't really want to go back to school. So I went back to cowboying. I got a job down in the Yellowstone Park, working for the guy who had a contract to supply all the horses to the park. And I worked there for several weeks topping off horses, and then I went down to Jackson Hole, and I had come down with a reoccurring case of malaria that I'd gotten in the South Pacific in the Philippines. I knew that Nevada had a brand new veterans hospital, so I decided instead of going back to Montana, where there was one in Fort Harrison, Montana, I would go to Reno. Hitchhiked into Reno and checked in the hospital. When I got down to Reno, I knew they had dude ranches there. I hadn't thought about the divorce aspect of dude ranches. Because of being raised in Montana, we had a lot of dude ranches up there that had nothing to do with divorce. I had always had a little interest in dude ranches because although I wanted to have my own cattle ranch, I liked the idea of diversification you could have with having, putting up guests for certain good weather months of the year. In any case, I went in the Roundup Bar, which was on West 2nd Street in Reno in those days, and it was kind of the cowboy hiring hall for anybody looking for work on a ranch. Went in because Lena Geyser, who owned that bar, was just one of these. She mothered all of us, you know. She lined up 3 jobs for me. One was up at Lake Tahoe, where I wrangled dudes and was a hunting guide for deer hunting in the fall. And then when I was back in Reno, I got Lena bird dog for me again, and I had an interview with Emmy Wood at the Flying Emmy, and I tell you, it went so well, I walked out of there hired, and just luck of the draw. I was there when they needed somebody, and Lena knew that she felt that I was the guy that would be right for Emmy, and I don't think she ever regretted that decision. But I was hired as a cowboy, and you know, dude wranglers, a lot of people don't understand that role, but a dude wrangler technically is a cowboy who turned to dude wrangling because he liked the idea of a different type of job. Well, a lot of cowboys got in and out of dude ranching. They didn't really like it once they got into it because you have to be a people person as well as know horses, and you have to be able to match a dude to the horse. So you knew what to do with each guest, match them up with horses, but that was an important part of the job. Emily Pence Wood was her formal name, but everybody knew her as Emmy. She came from New York, blue blood, actually, you know, a very fine family. And she and her husband came west, not to get a divorce. They fell in love with the Washoe Valley and Nevada and decided they were going to stay. They bought the old Franktown Hotel, which was first built in like 1861. They converted it and renovated, spent a lot of money, built a swimming pool, 5-car garage, box stalls, more like an elegant Virginia farmer's ranch. It wasn't really like a cattle ranch at all. But about a year later, that Dory, her husband, Theodore Wood, who was known as Dory, fell in love with some 22-year-old divorcee. He took off with her and broke Emmy's heart. And she made me the ranch manager and kind of promoted me, and I became kind of the man of the ranch, you might say. And although she never married again, she had lots of opportunities. The single males all fell in love with her. She was, you know, it was a pleasure not only to work for her, but just to know her. I don't, sometimes people are so special you can't find words to describe them. We tried very hard. We dedicated our book to Emmy because I loved her dearly. But I don't know. That's my favorite memory. Well, I had such a crush on her. You wouldn't believe when first time she arrived there. I've hardly talked to her. You know, she's out at the pool reading, and I have things to do. A few days later, Clark Gable arrived. They were just pals. I mean, but anyhow, one afternoon, Clark says, "Come on, Bill. Ava and I are going to take a ride. Why don't you come with us?" So we get in the car, and in those days, there was a bench seat. Ava sitting in between Clark and me. Now, at this point, Clark's my buddy, you know, so I'm feeling comfortable with him. But God almighty, damn, this beautiful woman sitting next to me, and her knee touches my knee, and I'm getting all excited. Well, we get down to Genoa. We shot some pheasants, and we come back to what's the oldest thirst parlor, as they advertise it, in Genoa, the bar there. And the three of us walk in. We're sitting there having a drink. Nobody paid any attention to us. And all of a sudden somebody said, isn't that Ava Gardner down there? Nobody said anything about Clark Gable. And all of a sudden the buzz is going down the bar, you know. Somebody takes a picture. And ever since then, I've announced at our various book signings or where we've ever had slide presentations, I said, anybody in this room took that picture, I want a copy of it. You know, I had a number of, I wouldn't call them affairs, but they were actually sexual in nature, but they developed like any dating situation might. And my first wife and I had a kind of a major love affair. And Emmy approved of it by that time. In fact, my first wife was Maid. She got pregnant. Then she had a miscarriage. So we went ahead and got married anyhow, even when we didn't have to. We went ahead and got married. She was my wife working at the ranch, and I hadn't been there in that situation for more than 6 months. And I said, "This is never going to work. If I'm going to stay married, we got to get out of here." Because it was almost like by being married, I was a better, safer shot for some of the guests than when I was single, you know.